Okay, we're just going from here. Hey, what's up everyone? How's it going, plug girlies? You join me today from my bedroom. As you can see, I don't know if I'm going to put any of the beginning in here, but basically I've been having a nightmare. We're just going to jump right in. I've been having a nightmare. I ordered a professional microphone, a Rode mic. I've had to return it because I don't understand how to use it. I really do not understand how to use it. I tried to connect it to my camera. I bought the specific cable on Google that was like, this works with the Rode pod mic and you can connect it straight to your Sony camera. Turns out that's all lies. All lies. Lies and betrayal. So we're not doing that. We're back to the little mini mics, little mini Hollyland mics, and we're just going to go from there. You know, I have many things that I'd like to talk about, all of which are on my iPad because I'm an iPad kid. I might be 30, but I'm an iPad kid. Anyone else? Anyone else an iPad kid? If I worked in a normal job where I had to like have co-workers and stuff, I feel like my most asked thing would be like, what games do you play on your iPad? And that's insane for a 30-year-old, but we move. Anyway, as I said, we're jumping in with a life update. Where I have been, I have disappeared from the internet, from the YouTubes for 2 months. And I'm not going to lie, the mental health was spiraling. The physical health has been spiraling. But we're just keeping on. I went to the doctors about my migraines. She was like, yeah, girly, those are migraines that you're having. That doesn't sound fun. And I was like, no, Dr. Atwell, these are not fun. So I'm on tablets now for my migraines, which is a bonus. And I'm also getting sent for genetic testing. Going to be poked and prodded and, you know, like some sort of alien experiment, I think. So basically, years and years ago, my mum had cancer. And when she was diagnosed, was in her late 30s. So being a girly in her 30s, that's a concern for me. It's a big concern for me. So they're sending me for genetic testing, which is very exciting, but it has made the mental health spiral a little bit. I feel like I am coming out the other side of kind of like, do you know what? Knowledge is power, regardless of whatever I find out, it'll be fine. I feel like I've kind of gone from one extreme to the other. To begin with, I was very stressed about it, very spiraling into the dark holes of hell. But now I feel like I've kind of come out the other side and I'm sort of a bit more, not impassive about it, but I'm just kind of like, do you know what? Like, regardless of which way it goes, if I find out that I don't have it, amazing. And if I find out that I do have the gene, then I know what's coming. I know what to expect. I've been through this before. It's not that big a deal, you know? But yeah, that's basically where I've been at. What life has been doing to me, God forbid. And I've been working. On top of that, I've been working away. And I read the most that I have read this year in March. I managed to read 13 books in March. And I filmed a reading wrap up and we talked about it all and I just didn't post it. Because like I said, the mental health has been in the gutter and it has been that whole, well, why would somebody watch you? And, you know, people that you know might see it and it's embarrassing. And like I've had sort of like people from extended family that I haven't even met comment to other people about it. And that sort of got to me a bit. Like I had somebody from my partner's family who I've never met in the 11 years that we've been together, comment on the fact that at one point I was posting videos on YouTube and stuff, and it kind of gets to me. I feel like it puts me back in that state of mind of I'm being attacked for being myself. And again, I feel like I'm kind of coming out the other side of it. I'm going to keep leaning forward to stop my iPad locking, and I'm really sorry. So yeah, that's the gist of what has been happening. It's just been a long sort of bumpy couple of months into finding my creativity again, sort of trusting myself in my creativity, not getting too down on myself if my business isn't doing great, because if you don't know, I do nails and beauty stuff as kind of a day job, and the beginning of the year is always really quiet, the first couple of months, especially if you're somebody who isn't fully booked all the time. I've not been doing this for very long, so the quiet months were particularly quiet for me, and it was a bit worrying at points. But again, it's one of those things that I'm trying to have the mindset of money comes and goes, and this time where it is quiet, use that time to put it into other creative things that you enjoy, and not just spending that time worrying that you're not making any money, because what does that achieve, you know? So yeah, back to the fact that I read 13 books in March. Let's just take it back there for a second. I decided at the beginning of March, I read City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Smith. No, I didn't. Is that what her name is? Watch it be Kayla Edwards, not Kayla Smith. Kayla Edwards. I read City of Gods and Monsters and then went on a binge. And when I say a binge, I mean it, like a binge of contemporary romance. So Sunrise on the Reaping was sprinkled in there, but everything else I read was contemporary romance, because I had so many contemporary romance on my shelf that I just never picked up before, or I was waiting for them to be palate cleansers, and I just then never gravitated towards them because I was waiting for it to be a palate cleanser if I needed one. And I just thought, there's so many good books on here and I just need to read them. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I had such a great reading month. I had so many 4 and 5 star reads. I read 13 books in March. I took an average of 3 days to finish a book. And the top 2 genres were contemporary and romance. And I had 9 4-star reads, because there's one missing, and I'm not going to say that was a 5-star read in case it wasn't. So I'm going to say 9 4-star reads and 4 5-star reads, which is incredible. So the average rating for last month for me was 4.33 stars, which is such a good reading month. And I honestly felt when I was reading, yes, when you read the same genre over and over and it's like the same types of books that you're reading, it can become predictable, but it felt very safe there. And it sort of felt like I was happy to be there. I was happy to be reading. And I'm somebody, I love love. Like, I love reading about people that are in love. And it makes me so happy to read about people who are in love. I actually found that, because one like trope of contemporary romance that I hate is accidental pregnancy. I hate it. And there was 2 books that I read that had accidental pregnancy, and I actually really, really liked them. Now, it could just be these authors' style of writing, because one of them was Hannah Bonham Young on Out on a Limb, and the other one was Reckless. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the way that they like did those tropes, and I really liked the way that the men responded in those books. I think a big ick for me a lot of the time is the way the man responds, and I think that's where my fear of from a young age accidental pregnancy came from, was watching all these films or TV programs that like somebody accidentally falls pregnant, or there's a little like mishap and the men fly off the handle and it's this big drama. And don't get me wrong, I get the surprise, I get the, oh my god, like what are we doing, like we're not even together, but I feel like it kind of traumatized me a little bit. And to read those books, especially Out on a Limb, oh my god, I could talk about Out on a Limb for so long. I'm not gonna, because I have many other things that I want to say in this, but I could talk about Out on a Limb for so long, because it really was such a lovely, lovely book to read. And the 2 main characters were just adorable. Like, I was giggling, kicking my feet, like I genuinely couldn't control myself. It was just so good. Moving on to this month, I've had a little bit of a slower reading month than in March. I feel like I was really on a roll, and I think because contemporary romance is such like quick reads, especially like your Elsie Silvers, they are very quick to read. So this month I've been kind of getting back into my fantasy romantasy life. And one of the books that I read, so I read Fearless. I have many thoughts on Fearless as well, but I feel like that would have to be like a whole Powerless trilogy dedicated video. But I loved it. I just want to say that for all of the Powerless trilogy girlies, I loved Fearless. But one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year has to be Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. Now, I read this whole book and thought she wrote it so beautifully, and I loved the concept of the book because, again, I'm somebody who loves love. And if you've never heard of this book before, it's basically these two souls who they can only live until they're 18. On their 18th birthday, they have to kill one another. And it's like they could come back as they come back as different people every single time. They look different genders, different races. It is literally just these two souls bouncing between different bodies throughout time. And they recognize one another in every lifetime. And in most of the lifetimes, they fall in love with one another. And it becomes harder and harder because as soon as they see one another, they recognize one another. Like, the pain that I was in reading this, like it literally, it made me think of that bit in Song of Achilles where he's like, I would recognize you in the total darkness, like just from like the sound of your breathing, the touch of your skin, like that. When I first read that, like this whole book gave me that feeling. And as somebody who's dealt with a lot of grief, like from losing her mother at 17, and like 2 years before that, I lost my grandfather, like to a similar illness. So it's like I dealt with a lot of grief in a very short space of time, had a bit of a break, and then again had like 4 family funerals in 1 year and dealt with a lot of grief in a very short space of time. So me and grief are best pals, you might say. But it was so comforting to read, and something that really struck me, it was the first book I've ever tabbed. I'm gonna say that now. And I tabbed the whole book, and not particularly for any sort of like critical review or like academic sort of like deep dive, purely on vibes. Just want to put that out there. But one thing that struck me the most was talking about her family over the years and how she missed them and how she was grieving her mother from like 200 years ago. And she'd, had like 2 or 3 mothers since then. But she was like grieving all these families that she'd left in the past. And she was struggling to start over every time and struggling to get attached to these families and like allowing herself to open up to these new families because she was still in so much pain from having to leave the last ones behind. And I was just like, this is crazy. It was such a good book. I absolutely loved it. I know that people have sort of been critical about her work before, and some people didn't enjoy Our Infinite Fates, but I really, really did. And I will say, like, my account is called Plot Girly for a reason, and it is because I am fully immersed in what is happening at that second. I'm not somebody that like foresees a plot twist coming. Like, if I do, it has to be very fucking obvious because your girl ain't saying nothing coming. Just, So I loved the journey that this book went on, and I was there with the main characters the whole time. The plot twist at the end just got me. The epilogue had me sobbing because I knew the exact coffee shop. I knew exactly where he was sitting. Like, I could physically see it, like it was a film playing out in my head. Like I was sobbing. I feel like all of the books, I'm like, this is one of the best books I've ever read, has just like emotionally destroyed me. Every single one has just completely emotionally destroyed me. But I was obsessed with that. And another book that I read at the beginning of this month and have spoken to everybody who will listen is The Women by Kristin Hannah. That is one of the best books I think I have ever read. It's one of my favourite books of all time. Immediately went 6-star, God tier, to the top of the list. As somebody who had a Scottish education and only knows about wars that my country have been involved in, and even then, probably don't know that much. I knew nothing about the Vietnam War. Nothing. Other than there was a war in Vietnam at some point. I didn't even know when it was. I was even foggy on that. I just knew that there was a war there. And oh my God. Like, you want to talk about grief and loss? Don't read a book about war. Don't read a book about war. But the whole thing of just like the found family, the friendship, like everything, like going in, I felt like I had a great experience with this book, not only because Kristin Hannah writes so incredibly well, but because I went in as green as Frankie. Like, I did not know anything about the Vietnam War. I didn't even really know why they were there. I was shocked, awe, appalled, gobsmacked to find out how many American soldiers went to Vietnam. First of all, because I did not know that there was that many men and women went across there. And then to find out that nobody believed Frankie when she came home that she'd been a part of this war, because women didn't go to war. And just like for years, she was dealing with like, well, what they would have called shell shock then, but like PTSD. And just nobody believed her. Nobody wanted to talk to her about it. Her mum and dad were appalled that she had went to fight. They thought that this was like the most unbecoming thing that a girl of her age could have done, because she was supposed to just go to nursing school as something to do before she got married. Are you fucking kidding me? This girl, on like her first day as a trauma nurse in a war zone, was like having to help somebody who's holding his boot with his foot in it. And I cried so many times reading that book. I really did. I was traumatized, I think, reading that. Put my teeth in and start again. For me, grief and loss triggers my grief, my trauma. My grief and my trauma from my circumstance was triggered a lot in this book, a lot. But that did not take away from my experience of reading the book. I got to the end and I was happy crying in a way that I don't think I have ever cried, but it was almost this like emotional relief. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, like I'm so happy, I'm overcome with it, overcome with happiness. It was almost like I am so relieved for her that this is where she is now, that she is getting everything that she should have gotten when she came home. And this is years, literal years later. It is honestly one of the best books I have ever read, and will scream about it from the rooftops to everybody that will listen. One of my favourite tropes in books is found family and friendship, and that shift in friendship from friends to we are family, you are all I have. That is one of my favourite tropes in books as somebody who is an only child and grew up not struggling to make friends because I'm a very social person, but I struggled to keep friends because I'm a very intense friend. If I'm friends with someone, I'm all in that friendship. Like, I want to be the person that you can rely on. I want to be there for you. Like, I'm just, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm just one of those people that, like, I'm not up for half-arse friendships. Like, I really don't have time for it. And it's a bit like Christina and Meredith on Grey's Anatomy. Like, they are my people. They are my family. Because I didn't have sisters. And this is the closest thing and the best thing that I can liken to having sisters. So when that's in a book, when that trope is there, it has my heart. And this book is that, like, the love that Frankie and her fellow nurses have for one another during the war and after. They consistently have one another's backs. They are always there for one another, even when they're states away. And it is just like the most heartwarming thing to read when you see, like, the trauma that they're separately dealing with, that they have that in one another that they don't have with their family. It is just, like, by far one of the best books I've ever read. Another book that I wanted to talk about briefly before we get into what I'm actually reading at the minute, I wanted to talk about Kiss of the Basilisk, or Split or Swallow. Now, I don't know if you know this book. I don't know if you've seen it on BookTok or whatever, but it is intense, girl. It is intense, girl. Oh my goodness. I thought that Kiss of the Basilisk and Split or Swallow were two different books, but if you didn't know, now you will know. They are the same. They're one and the same. They're anything but ordinary. Does anybody remember that song? Nope. Okay. Kiss of the Basilisk was the title of it when I read it, and this, I believe, is the Trad publishing title, not Split or Swallow. And it basically follows a girl who she has been selected to be in the running for Queen, or like Queen consort. She's going to be married off to the prince, but there are 12 other girls, and how they become queen or get the interest of the prince is by learning how to be sexually satisfying to him through doing it with snakes. It was intense. There was a lot of banging. I love a spicy scene. I think it, for me, as a woman who is 30 years old, I don't know if I've mentioned that yet, that I'm 30, but it's my only personality trait now that I'm 30. But I don't want this closed door shit, right? I am a 30-year-old woman. I want to see and I want to know the hows and the whys and the wheres, and where's it going and what are you doing with it? You know, and I understand why people don't really like reading that, but I do. As a woman who's been in a relationship for 11 years, I want some new tips. Has it changed? I don't know. I've been with the same guy for over a decade. So it is that thing of, like, it was a lot of banging, and I found myself skipping over some of the sex scenes because the spicy scenes are starting on, like, chapter 4 or 5. Like, we're not even 100 pages in. Like, there's no chill. You're looking in the first probably 50 pages. There's something sexual happening. So in a 700-page book, it can get a bit like, what other way could they possibly do this? But the story I found very interesting. There was a whole, like, coup situation happening, and apparently there's another one coming out, so I probably will read Kiss of the Basilisk 2 or whatever she ends up calling it. I probably will end up reading that. But yeah, considering that I'd read contemporary romances up till now and had sort of seen my fair share of spicy scenes, but a lot of contemporary romances are, you know, maybe 2 or 3 scenes towards the end of the book. This was a lot. But that's enough about that, because that's, you know, that's by the by, that's done now. What I do want to talk to you about is the new read, and it's Throne of Glass. This is what we are reading currently. I am very excited about Throne of Glass. I am loving this so far. I will warn you, this is not spoiler free. I have tried to be spoiler free, and I just don't know how to give a spoiler free review. If I really tried, when it comes to what I'm currently reading, because I need to talk about what it is. And this series is quite old, so that's not my problem if you haven't read the material. There's your disclaimer. I am on chapter 28, so on page 211, and I am loving this. It's taken me a week to get here. As you can see, I've like tabbed a little bit. It's taken me a little bit to get back into Sarah J. Maas's writing. I'm not going to lie. I read ACOTAR last year, and I loved the story. I'm very apprehensive for what is coming next, though. The next book, if it's about Elaine, I'm such an Elaine hater. This is for another podcast. Let's just regroup. I mean, this isn't a real podcast, because I don't know how to record audio and upload it to somewhere where you could listen to a podcast, but this video is going to be so long that that's what this is. Back to Throne of Glass. So at the minute, where we are with Celaena, she's been told by Queen Elena that there is evil in the castle and she needs to destroy it. So she is currently looking for information on what that could possibly be. She's done her first 2 trials. The third one has just been cancelled, so they are preparing for another trial once again. And she's learning about word gates and word marks. So this is where we are right now with this. I know that everybody goes on about Dorian. I know that everyone goes on about Dorian. And I know that I know as it stands right now, I love Dorian. I think he is such a cheeky chappy. I think that he is so head over heels for Celaena. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but that's how I pronounce it. He's head over heels for her. But I really like Chaol. I really like Chaol. I'm just going to put it out there. And if something happens to him, I feel like this is foreshadowing, but if something happens to him, I'm going to be so sad. I'm going to be so fucking sad, because I kind of love him just a little bit. But I feel like that is just me to a T. Like, I am somebody who loves a protector. Like, Cassian was my favourite in ACOTAR. Rhys gave me the ick by the end. I love Xaden Ryerson so deeply. So deeply. Malachi in Powerless, are you joking? Like, I love a protective ass man, and Chaol is that for me. I love him. So I really, really am enjoying this. I can't wait to see where it goes. Although I feel like I'm going to have to put it on pause, because Conditions of Will has just come out on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm a Jessa Hastings girly. I am a Jessa Hastings ass bitch. I love her writing. This is supposed to be about Throne of Glass, but I'm just going to go on a tangent about Jess Hastings. She made me not hate the cheating trope in books. The dynamic between BJ and Magnolia, like, just reminded me of every teenage, like, friend that I had, that her boyfriend cheated on her and she went back to him every time. Like, I just loved Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates so much. So to have Conditions of Will come out and everybody say how good it is and how much they loved it and how it's like the epitome of Jessa Hastings, like, metaphor rambles, that is what I need in my life. So I feel like between Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, I'm gonna have to read Conditions of Will. And then I think I'm going to read Assassin's Blade third. Although I saw on Pinterest, I'm sure it was Pinterest, that somebody said, well, somebody had posted that there's like 1 million different orders that you could read it in. So let's see, Throne of Glass reading order. So, okay, so this one says third. That one also says third. Right, so timeline order is obviously Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, blah, blah, blah. Then the author recommendation is Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Assassin's Blade, blah, blah, blah. But apparently for emotional damage, you read Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, and then Assassin's Blade. We have a few options. Apparently, the emotional damage order is also the romantic order on somebody else's post. So do we go for full emotional damage or do we go with author recommendation? I feel like I'm just going to have to go with author recommendation, because if that's how she wants you to read it, then like fair enough. Do you know what I mean? But what I will say is I much prefer the US covers to these. I love the colors. The color and just the art on the US ones compared to the ones that we have in the UK. I just feel like this isn't very inspiring. Do you know what I mean? What else were we going to chat about? Where's my list? So yes, that's what I want to talk about. Let's talk about BookTok. So I have many things that I would like to say about BookTok. I have never felt a sense of community online the way that I feel in the BookTok community. Don't get me wrong, there are people who are not the best. Like, there's people who are a bit toxic, but for the most part, I love the sense of community that I get on BookTok. And I feel like I'm very lucky for the people that I follow. I feel like the smaller community on BookTok is very good at sort of being like, you know, I read this book and it wasn't really for me and this is why. But I feel like the big creators, when they sort of start shitting on books and talking about like how terrible the writing is and how did this even get published and I hated this and blah blah blah, I just think that's so, you yourself are so much more likely to affect the authors than me at like 1,000 followers posting my little silly review being like, I don't like it. There's a lot about BookTok that I love and there's a lot about BookTok that frustrates me, and I feel like this is where my move to sort of booktube is coming, because I'm somebody who likes to yap, as you can tell. We've been here for nearly an hour. So it's probably not going to be edited to be nearly an hour, but as of right now, recording time, yeah, we're nearly an hour. So it's a bit intense. I really love what Emmy reads, Emmy Rossum. I really love her. And I love Sarah Caroli as well. I love Laura Reads, who used to be Paperback Honey. I love her. I love all of her content. She, to me, is like the ultimate comfort creator, because I am also a homebody, and to watch her videos just like, it just makes me so happy. And watching her and Emmy together are so adorable. And I also love Larry. If you haven't followed Larry, she is so funny. So funny. I am obsessed with her in probably a very unhealthy way. I just like those people in this corner of BookTok that I've sort of like curated for myself and that they've curated for themselves is where I feel comfortable. And because I'm not somebody who is particularly not articulate, I think I explain myself pretty well, but I'm not somebody who's reading books because I want to critically review it I'm not reading books because I want to critically review it, or I'm not reading it because I want to give some sort of like academic view or like have an academic discussion about the book. I sort of feel like I'm just here for the vibes. And these girlies that I watch and they read similar books to me, yes, they have very articulate thoughts and feelings about books, and they can have these very intelligent discussions about why they love the book, but they also are here for the vibes, which is what I absolutely love. Oh my god, sounded like some of them was coming out of the earth. I need to take a breath. I feel like I'm burping so much because I'm taking on so much air. I need to calm down. My camera's going to overheat. Can you imagine? But anyway, long, unhinged and unchained ramble about BookTok, but I have been loving it. I have been trying to spend more time offline because my screen time is abhorrent. It is awful. So I've been trying to spend more time offline. A way I have been doing that, and a reason that this book has taken me a week to get just over halfway through, is because me and Kieran have been watching Grey's Anatomy. Now, I've watched to just after the plane crash. Again, this show is nearly 30 years old. I'm not going to spare anybody's feelings about spoilers here. It's Grey's Anatomy. It's been on for so long. It's not my problem if you haven't seen it. So I've watched up until the plane crash season, maybe just sort of past that. And we're rewatching it again. So we're at the end of season 5. We're sort of a couple of episodes off the shooter episode. And something that has really doubled down for me has been my hatred of Derek Shepherd. I hate that man intensely. I cannot and will not understand Derek Shepherd. I don't get the fascination. I don't understand the attraction. He is the most toxic man. Never ever tries to see anything from Meredith's point of view, ever. He reacts first, apologizes later. He never sees anything from her point of view. He leaves a marriage, meets her, and then expects full like wife commitment and privileges from her when they've only known each other a couple of weeks, and then leaves her for his, wife. His wife comes back. He decides to give his marriage another try and then gets jealous when she moves on. My guy! And then even when they are together and that whole Addison thing has petered out and they decide they're going to be together and they get married on a post-it, even then, he has a bad day and he takes it out on her. He blames things constantly on her. He stole her surgery because he was jealous that he was chief of surgery and he wasn't going to be able to perform an operation on this tumor. He stole it from her because he was jealous. That's his wife. Ugh. I can't stand him. I hate it. But anyway, me and my partner have been watching that and we're very invested. He is also very invested. He didn't think he was going to be, but he is. I coaxed him in and he loves it. I think his favourites are Sloane. So dreading that coming, and Bailey are his 2 favourites. Mine are Christina and also Bailey. So I am very, very interested to see how he reacts to all that business that is about to go down very, very soon. But we've been loving it. I also managed to convince him to watch the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. He didn't think he was going to be into it. He's not really into period dramas, although he watched the 2019 Little Women and he really liked it. So I said to him, I was like, why don't we watch Pride and Prejudice? the one with Keira Knightley in it? And he was like, oh yeah, I'm not sure. And then he was just, because he plays Warhammer on his iPad, and I could see him. He was playing his game and he was stopping to watch. And even he, like when Darcy takes Elizabeth's hand to help her up onto the carriage, and then we get the infamous hand flicks, even he was like clutching his pearls, and I was like, I've done it. Like, this is it. He was never somebody that watched romantic movies like Pride and Prejudice. You know, chick flick or whatever he was down to watch, but like he's never watched a movie like Pride and Prejudice, which is like pure romance and like old school romance, you know. And he loved it. He thought it was so good. And the whole time he was also commenting about the visuals in the film and like all the different like artistic choices that they made to make this film what it is, and like how it has, well, I mean, it was made in 2005, like 20 years ago, and it's still the adaptation that people talk about. It's still the adaptation that people are like, yeah, the BBC version was good, but like the 2005 Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice. And I think it is the visuals. The whole film just looks like this. It has this like attainable etherealness that I cannot, like, you cannot explain unless you've seen it. And it is just, like, I just love it so much. I'm going to watch it after I finish this, even though we literally watched it like a month ago. I need to watch it again because I just love it. I need to watch that, and then I need to watch Little Women straight after, because that's another one of my favourite films as well. I just love. But anywho, that is what we have been watching. Also, Criminal Minds is on rotation. You know me. You probably don't. But Criminal Minds is on rotation, as always, for me to go to sleep. Craziness for me to go to sleep to. But it is what I fall asleep to. So that's by the by. That's just assumed at all times. So anywho, I feel like I need a segue between topics, because I'm just not a segue gal. But any hoozle, let's do some book recs. It's basically going to be all the ones I've talked about here. I think that you should go out and you should read the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. I didn't talk about that, but you should read the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. I think you should read Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. And I think you should read Our Infinite Fates and The Women. There we go. Four book recommendations for you from me this week. I loved, with the Rose Hill series, there's 3 books in that series, but 4 different recommendations. All of the books that I have read so far this year, I have loved, and I feel like I've been so much more intentional with the books that I've been picking to buy, because I'm very, very bad for falling sucker to the works now 3 for $7.50. La gasp, can you believe? I'm a big sucker for, there's 2 books that I know that I definitely want to read, and then I just pick any random one, or there's 1 book in the 3 for $7.50, and I'm like, right, okay, any other 2 just so I can get the deal. And I'm really bad for that. Or like, I'll pick up a book and I'm like, oh yeah, sounds good, yeah, I'll just buy that, instead of buying the book because I know I'll love it. And I feel like I'm trying to be more intentional with what I do buy. But all of those I would highly, highly recommend, especially The Women. It was amazing. If you couldn't tell from my absolute meltdown earlier on, it was so good. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Leave me a wee comment below if you've made it this far. I don't think you will have, but if you have, then I'm impressed. I'm very impressed, because your girl can yap, you know. I'm also on TikTok and on Instagram, both at @plotgirlie as well, and I post daily over on TikTok, mostly just crash outs or some sort of unhinged ramble, a bit like on here. and I don't really post that much on Instagram, but I am going to try and get better at posting on Instagram. Just don't take that many photos anymore, and especially not of myself. Like, ew, I don't want to take a selfie. No thank you. But thank you so much for listening to me ramble. It has been great to catch up and just to be able to chat shit online again, and I will see you all very, very soon. Love you guys. Bye.